This is what I do now. Sometimes I drive into town to pick up a random stranger. I just blow into my hands and this man I will pick up from the street will just fall asleep. I can take him to my house or I will find a place to park in a safe place. Then a snake will come out from my private part and start sucking his blood.
Hello, I'm back with another episode. There is this message I want to share with you, and the message reads like this. I'm a 29-year-old woman. I currently stay with my house help and my gardener. In the community where I stay, people do not even know what goes on in my house. I just lie to people in the community that I am a married woman and I'm married to a man who stays with his family in the UK. But all of this is just a lie. The lucky part about it is that the neighborhood I stay, a lot of rich people also stay there, so everybody just minds their own business. But as you know, there are always people who poke nose in people's business. I have managed to keep everything in order. Whenever someone comes to my house to investigate my personal life, I just tell them I am married to a man who lives in the UK with the rest of his family. The honest truth is that I made a deal with the devil. I grew up in the village. I was just a very poor girl who was raised by my parents who were also poor. My life was going nowhere. When I look at my parents, especially my mother, she was a very beautiful woman. I never understood how beautiful mother ended up being stuck with my poor father in the village. My mother is old, but you could see that she was once a beautiful woman who ended up being stuck with this poor man in the village. He was my father, but he was a poor man. He didn't have any future or never had any vision about getting out from the village. When she believed that she could be happily married to a poor man, she made the biggest mistake of her life. So she found herself stuck with my father in the village. My mother was a good woman. She never insulted my father. But there were days whenever my father does something annoying to my mother. That is when I could see the truth that was hidden in my mother's heart. I could see it and feel that she regretted being married to my father. But what could she do? She has lost that opportunity. I know that back in the day when she was still young, she should have taken the opportunity to get married to a man who could provide a good life for her. I saw that God has made me in the image of my mother. Growing up, I knew that village life was not meant for me, but I had no way of getting out. We were just suffering back then when I was still staying with my parents back in the village. I had not performed the sacrifice that I ended up performing. I had grown restless of the village life and I felt I was too beautiful to date any man who was staying in the village. A lot of men do come to my parents and ask for my hand in marriage, but I was not into them. I was not going to get married to a village man like my mother had done. I was going to use my beauty to be a rich woman. I only dated once when I was 16 years and I saw the disadvantages of dating a poor man. And the other thing was that I was also staying with another poor man who happens to be my father. So when I started dating this guy who was also staying in the village, he gave me a lot of promises, like the same promises my father has been giving to me and my mother ever since I was growing up. So I was used to all those empty promises. After I had broken up with my poor village guy, I then decided to be single until I met this other man. He was not rich, but I liked the fact that he was staying in the city and he had a professional job. I was going to use him as a stepping stone from the village to the city. I pretended as if I was in love with him and he believed me. One day he came and he asked me to go with him. When he brought me to the city as his wife, I lied to him that I was pregnant, but at that time I was on family planning. But he believed me anyway. He thought that indeed I was pregnant. He started giving me a lot of money. He told me to open a bank account so that he can just deposit the money into the bank account. But I refused. As someone who grew up in the village, I don't trust banks. I wanted to keep all this money that he was giving to me under the mattress. With the money that he was giving to me, I was looking for another accommodation in another city. When my so-called husband at that time had traveled out of town because he was a salesman moving from town to town, I then hired a car and stole all of his movable properties. I ran to another city and started a very small business. It was just a small restaurant, but I quickly went broke because there was stiff competition in that place. That is when I became friends with another old woman.
She had a chain of those small restaurants. She would come in the morning where she would do some prayers before staff would start cooking. In the evening, she would come and collect the money. So I became friends with her after she had found out that I was trying to run my own small restaurant. She was not married and she didn't have any child. I just thought that God has decided to make her barren. After going broke, I then told her the state of things. She made me a manager of one of her small restaurants. Then she invited me to stay in her house because I could not pay my rent in time. She had a lot of friends. There was a friend of her who liked me a lot. She treated me like her own daughter. But on many of those nights, they would party throughout the night. It was more like a rich women private club. When they do that, they will bring a male stripper, then they will sleep with him, all of them. I minded my own business, otherwise if I asked a lot of questions, I might be kicked out. Sometimes I would hear scream every now and then in her bedroom. It was as if they were torturing a man inside the bedroom. He would scream so much as if he was being killed or burned ham. After I joined the occult club, that is when I realized that the man who was screaming was because of a snake that was biting him and sucking his blood. This is what I do now. Sometimes I drive into town to pick up a random stranger. I just blow into my hands and this man I will pick up from the street will just fall asleep. I can take him to my house or I will find a place to park in a safe place. Then a snake will come out from my private part and start sucking his blood and I will just drop him up somewhere. But this ritual that I do is not an everyday thing. I can do this ritual 3 times a year because I already sacrificed my womb. So now the rules that I follow are better than the rules that other people that are in the same occult. As I already sacrificed my womb, if you ask me, do I have money? Yes, I do have money. Every day is like a holiday. If I want to fly to Paris today for shopping, no problem, I can do it. I am happy, of course. It's better to cry while you're in a mansion and cry when you're in a dirty village. I sacrificed my mother first because at that time, when I sold off my womb, her ancestors showed her that my womb has been removed and I could not stand her knowing my secret. So I took her pictures to that woman. Then they went and they threw those pictures in the sea. But when they went to the sea, I was not with them because I was not supposed to witness that ritual. When they threw my mother's picture in the sea, they wrapped her pictures inside a white cloth and a silver coin on top of it. This was a symbol of me sacrificing the woman who has given birth to me in exchange for protection. As her womb has protected me when I was not yet born, she is now the one who stands guard over my house. She is now the one who protects me. As for my father, I decided to dedicate his life to the devil as a way of thanking him for the gift of wealth he gave to me. I don't have a child and I will never be able to have a child in my life because my womb is already being used in the spiritual world to make demonic babies. But I am happy with the life I chose. I decided to end poverty in my own terms. Most of you are going to suffer in this world and you are going to suffer in the next world. So why not enjoy it when you have the opportunity? Don't you know that the next world we will not have the will to decide our own fate? I live a very private life. I don't post my pictures on social media. I just use a couple of fake accounts. In my neighborhood, I alone know the true source of my wealth. If I want to be with a man, there are men who are more than happy to quench my thirst with all I have. What more can I desire? This is a message that was forwarded to me by one of our admins. Please let's talk about this issue in the comment section. I'll be back with another episode.